Hey guys, giving away a Nintendo Switch on the channel this month. All you need to do is like, subscribe, and hit the bell on the video. And then when you get the notification for the video, make sure you leave a comment, because the comment is what guarantees you the entry. You will not get an entry just by liking and subscribing. You need to leave the comment. If you like PS4s, my boy Claytano is giving away a PS4 on his channel this month, so you can go and do exactly the same thing over there. Switch and PS4 up for grabs this month on both of our channels. So, I wanted to show you this video because this was a game that I played about 2 hours ago. I'm recording this on the 22nd of August, by the way. It will be released on the 23rd. And it was pretty insane. I was actually sitting down with my partner and my baby, and we were just chilling. And I was playing this when everybody was watching me, and Rupert was on my lap watching me play the game, and it just turned out to be such a ridiculously crazy game. Now, I am... At the request of some people from my last video, they said, could you please show us the early rounds? I don't mind you skipping some bits, but it's nice to hear your decision making from the neutral rounds and which units you take. Well, in this scenario, I was offered 2 Skull Hunters, which Skull Hunter at level 2 is actually really powerful. So I wanted to pick up a Skull Hunter pair, and then I also had the option to start going towards Hunters, because as you can see, I've got the Egersis Ranger and I've got the Skull Hunters, so I just need one extra Hunter to get myself into a 3-Hunter position. And if I get any one of these Hunters to level 2, they're really strong with a 3-Hunter bonus, especially Egersis Ranger early on, especially Skull Hunter at level 2 early on. So I'm essentially looking for Skull Hunter. I'm in a bit of a precarious position here. I'm kind of looking at the Swordman, and I want the Swordman. I also want the Werewolf, because obviously keeping my options open is a better idea than not when it comes to setting up for the later game. I pick up Werewolf just because he is a kind of a harder unit to come across than a Egersis Ranger in the early game. However, if I win this round, I can go on and pick up a Egersis Ranger with the victory gold. If I don't win this round, it puts me in a more awkward position where I have to make a choice between getting Werewolf onto the field or getting a pair of Egersis Rangers to potentially set up for a 2-star. So as you can see, I lost the 3 Assassins. 3 Assassins are pretty good, actually, if you're lucky with the crits. Now, the decision that I make here may not necessarily be right, and you guys can assess the decision in your own respect. I decided to pair up my Egersis Rangers for the off chance that I find a level 2, especially with the recent Egersis buff. This makes her a pretty strong unit overall. I randomly buy the Lightblade Knight just because. Now, I wouldn't say I get punished here, but what I will say is that I potentially missed out on getting a pair of Werewolves, which... Werewolf level 2 is definitely a very strong unit. Now, Werewolf level 2 is quite adaptable. He can definitely go into a Hunter frontline composition. If you're playing like a Warrior Hunter frontline, you can definitely fit him into a Beast Warrior comp if I end up going down the Beast Warrior line. I actually have 2 distinct paths in front of me with these units that I've picked up. One of them being the fact that I've got those Hunters on the field, the other being the fact that I've got 2 pretty core units for my Beast Warrior composition if I do want to go towards Beast Warrior. I also can start dealing a lot of damage with this composition because having the Werewolf on the field guarantees, or most of the time guarantees, that I get an extra 2 units onto the field. So anybody that I do beat with a considerable margin, I'm usually going to beat pretty hard. So as you can see, I'm not really committing one way or the other. I'm actually saving gold. I end up finding the Dwarf Sniper, which means that I can activate the 3-Hunter bonus, and I'm just going to take off Abyssal Guard, because I actually prefer to have Werewolf on by himself over Abyssal Guard, just because Werewolf is slightly tankier. He can transform and generate more health, and generate the Wolves, which will tank for my Hunters a little bit more readily. So this sets me up for actually a very strong early game, especially how Dwarf Sniper works now. Dwarf Sniper is a very powerful kind of early game executing unit, because he'll always focus the target with the lowest HP. So you add that together with the Hunter bonus, you actually get a very powerful executing unit, and you can see he's dealt the most damage here, 1,107, which is just a little bit more than my Swordman as well. So actually, just him as a unit right now is very, very strong, especially in the early game, and I would recommend even picking him up as a random addition to your lineup. You can then load offensive items onto him, because if you want to play Hunters, it's okay to load offensive items onto Dwarf Sniper, and if you want to use him in the early game to help transition you into a later game build, you can just sell him and get those offensive items back. So I think he's just a generally quite good unit right now, but especially with a Hunter bonus, it makes him very, very powerful indeed when it comes to dealing with sort of low HP units, and I don't even have any level 2s right now, but the Hunter bonus is just that strong, combined with the Cave Clan bonus, that I can actually take on most people in the lobby. Luckily for me, no one is like absolutely high rolled the crap out of this game. There are a couple of people with some level 2s here and there, but there's no like massively threatening level 2s. I can see like one Soulbreaker at level 2, but that's it. Like there's no real like huge threatening level 2s in this game. So I'm actually probably one of the strongest players in this game right now, just simply due to the fact that I've got the 3 Hunter bonus, which is a great early game synergy, and also due to the fact that I've got the Cave Clan bonus, which makes... I always like to say that the Cave Clan bonus makes like a 1.5 star unit. So it's quite obvious kind of like how much I need to invest into rolling and how much I can sort of get away with and stuff like that. So you can see here I actually pick up the level 2 Swordsman. This is a really, really good addition now, the level 2 Swordsman, because he can single-handedly carry early games by himself. Add the Cave Clan bonus to him, he becomes like a 2.25 star in terms of HP. He's just a really good unit in his own respect. He's a great tank, he'll deal a lot of damage, he'll probably deal the most DPS out of any of my units. He will now likely surpass the Dwarf Sniper, just simply because that level 2 damage of Swordman is pretty strong. So I'm in a really, really, really good position as it stands right now with this particular build. I've got some pairs to work with. I've got the pair of Abyssal Guards. I've got the pair of Egersis Rangers just kind of hanging around. As you can see, it gets a little bit dicey here. We sort of have to just cling to this win by the skin of our teeth. We're building a little bit of a win streak right now as well, it's worth noting. We have been fairly aggressive with our buying strategy. We've bought a lot of sort of high cost units compared to just spamming 1 costs, so we're maybe a little bit behind the curve in terms of economy. If you're at this stage in the game and you're on a win streak like I am, it's perfectly okay to spend gold to protect that win streak. And I actually end up skipping the Shining Archer. Now, I'll tell you why for the time being, is that I'm not entirely sure if I want to go 6 Hunters this game. There's a very real part of me that thinks that I could potentially go for the number one, I could potentially go for the number 1 Asia build. I know you guys probably remember it from a video that I did just a while ago. The number 1 Asia Hunter build, where I have like the Abyssal Guard in there with the Siren. You run 3 Hunters instead of 6. It's all about armor reduction with the Venomancer and the Warlock bonus. So I wasn't going to buy Shining Archer just for the time being, because I wasn't entirely sure that I wanted to commit to a 6 Hunter strategy. So I just kind of skipped over it, hoping that if I did want to go back to 6 Hunters, I could find one later in. So you might say, why did you skip over it? It's because I was never going to field it right now. So I'd rather save that gold. I'm not going to keep a Shining Archer on my bench for the entire game until a point where I feel comfortable to go for 6 Hunters. However, I am comfortable enough to pick up Wind Ranger, just because I think as an individual unit, especially with the front line that I've got, he's a slightly stronger unit for burst damage, especially versus sort of a high armor compositions that have the warriors and stuff like that. But I think versus neutral rounds, I was happy to stick to the Dwarf Sniper. But there's a little bit of a tussle going on now where I'm like, okay, do I want to go for Wind Ranger or Dwarf Sniper? So I actually skipped ahead to round 15 after the neutral round there. The reason I skipped ahead is you can see that nothing much has really changed. I've picked up another Wind Ranger. I picked up a Pirate Captain who I want to add to my front line. I got a 2-star Werewolf and I got a 2-star Abyssal Guard. So you can see that nothing much changed, and I didn't level up to level 7 either because I lost my win streak to the guy playing with a very strong Knight composition. And essentially from rounds 10 to 15, all I did was build gold. Luckily, I managed to save some of the pieces for a Refresher Orb, which I got fully completed on the Wolf round, which is an unbelievable addition to any Hunter composition. Anybody that's played Hunters knows that if you get Siren with a Refresher Orb, you're in an absolutely ridiculously good position. So I also, as you can see, subbed out the Dwarf Sniper for the Wind Ranger, just because that burst damage, the magic burst damage, is very strong, and that's kind of what I wanted to add to my lineup. I'm still keeping myself very healthy at the top end of the table, and I'm going to be working towards level 8, or sorry, level 7 on a fairly normal strategy. I did it maybe around, I did it without waiting for a round of 50 gold. I went to it on round 17, which is the usual level 7 level up time if you've got a normal game plan like I have, leveling up on curve and not leveling up aggressively. So I went to level 7 even though I wasn't at 50 gold, but you know, as I said, I'm at the top of the table. I want to protect my HP as much as possible. So I actually skipped ahead to the Lethal Ursa round again. I did 2 skips here. The reason I did the skips in this particular scenario is just because nothing much happened between those rounds. I 2-starred my Wind Ranger, I found a Siren, but as you can see, nothing else actually changed. So there wasn't many major rounds. I didn't do any major positioning tweaks. I didn't actually roll aggressively or anything like that. I just built my gold up to get to level 8 on round 21 as per usual, which is a classic leveling strategy. And then I had the option to sub in a Shining Archer for the 6 Hunter bonus. I actually have chosen not to go for the 6 Hunters right now. The fact being is that I actually want to have the Warrior bonus on the front line, and I think having a Warrior bonus with my current Warrior setup is stronger than having a random Shining Archer in there for the 6 Hunter bonus. I don't see any need to go for the 6 Hunter bonus right now because there isn't any kind of like crazy feathered compositions apart from Chris Eyre, who's running a feathered composition right now. But he's the only person in the game, so I feel more comfortable just leaving it as a 5 Hunters with a good Warrior frontline. Now, I have every intention this game, as you can see, I actually ended up selling off the Shining Archer. I have every intention this game to get to level 8, to level 9, and then potentially go to level 10. The idea being at level 9, I bring in the final Hunter for 6 Hunters. I can then potentially sub out the Abyssal Guard for Doom, and I could sub out potentially Skull Hunter for Tsunami Stalker. And that would be my final workup composition. That would be what I want the composition to look like at the end. At level 10, I could probably bring on Soul Reaper. I could also sub out the final warrior. I could sub out either Werewolf or whatever my other third warrior is other than Pirate Captain to go for the Egersis bonus early on. But you can see that my comp is pretty strong right now, and I've got 87 HP to work with, so I'm really comfortable in the scenario that I'm in. Don't need to save my Rings of Life now because I've already got a refresher orb, and the only person that I want the refresher orb on is the Siren, so I don't really care about anybody else. Maybe having another refresher orb on my Pirate Captain would be good, but it's very unlikely that I'm going to find 2 refresher orbs in one go. So right now, priorities at this stage in the game: leveling Siren to 2. When you've got a Siren with refresher orb at level 1, that's a massive feels bad man. Leveling Pirate Captain to 2 because he's not very tanky at level 1. Then either replacing Abyssal Guard for Doom, Skull Hunter for Tsunami Stalker, and then getting some level 3s on the board. Ideally, I want to level 3 Egersis Ranger, and I want to level 3 my Dwarf Sniper. Those are the 2 sort of big carries for me. Everybody else can pretty happily stay at level 2, and I wouldn't be too concerned about it. The other thing that I could do is try and go for a level 3 Skull Hunter, and there are actually some decisions that I think I want to reflect on this game, because there were definitely decisions that I don't think went particularly well for me. So it's definitely something that I do need to be aware of in terms of reflecting on how this game went. I think going for a 3-star Skull Hunter over adding a random Shining Archer is probably better. I think Skull Hunter at level 3 is better than Shining Archer. Especially if you give your Skull Hunter defensive items, because he lasts a little bit longer and has a higher damage output. You can see here the Doom Arbiter pops up for me, which gives me the potential to sub out the Abyssal Guard now. There aren't that many mage comps, so I don't really need the Marine bonus, and I feel pretty strong regardless. So I'm very happy to just kind of get rid of Abyssal Guard eventually. I did ideally like to find Doom level 2 before I sub out Abyssal Guard, but for some reason whenever I play Doom, I never ever find him at level 2, which is a real pain in the ass, because he's, for some reason, I had that one game about 2 weeks ago where I got Doom level 3. Another game was like, yeah, you like Doom? Yeah, you can never find one again. So this is my first taste of Chris Eyre, who is the feathered player. He's got a very, very, very strong feathered composition. I'm kind of having a look at his comp. He has been so lucky with his rolls this game to be at round 24 with the 3 stars that he's got, and having no economy to work with. He's just been like high rolling the crap out of feathered. Now, no one else is going feathered, not many other people are competing for feathered units, so it can make a bit of sense that that's the case. But if I had the luck that he had this game, I would be absolutely over the moon. He had a really, really strong one. You can see Shining Archer here as well. I'm really just in my mind considering Shining Archer. I think ideally my headspace was I would like to have Tsunami Stalker and keeping Skull Hunter. But I just, again, with the plight of any kind of legendary focus composition, you just sometimes never find that legendary. So I'll have to work with what I've got for the time being. As soon as I hit level 9, which will be next round, I'm going to level up and put on my Shining Archer, which is going to allow me to activate 6 Hunters, which will give me a bit of a better outcome versus the Feathered player. I'm not really in a strong enough position to beat his composition with just 3 Hunters. I need to sort of go the whole hog and go for the full Feathered composition. Sorry, for the full Hunter composition, which is fine. Happy to do that, and you can see here that I get my Shining Archer on, add her in, and now I've got the 6 Hunters, which is going to make me pretty strong versus almost everyone. Couple of people that I am a little scared of. There is a Assassin player that beat me, and obviously also that Feathered player was a pretty big deal. Find the Egg, which is great because I can get my Pirate Captain to level 2. I do one roll, end up picking up the Soul Reaper, which is someone that I could bring on later down the line. I could sell off a warrior for that, for instance, if I absolutely wanted to, or I could bring him on at level 10. I think, reflecting, knowing how the rest of this game went, the better decision would have been to go slow level to level 10. I actually had a pretty strong comp. I had 6 Hunters. I could have slow leveled to level 10 and brought on Egersis and kept the warrior bonus. That is something that from this position I should have saved back up to 50 gold, slow level to level 10, or just hit 50 gold and rolled my way down to level 10 ASAP. That would have been, I think, the best decision for me in this game, from my own perspective, knowing how the game went from this position. It would have probably guaranteed me or at least guaranteed me the win, or made it easier for me, I think I should say. It would have made this game much easier for me, and it would have put me in a more tenable position to actually come out on top. If, especially in 2 rounds' time, I had 45 gold. If I just saved for 2 rounds in a row and leveled to level 10, put on the Soul Reaper, and then just kind of let myself build up again with the economy that I had, it would have been far, far superior to anything else that I could have done in this situation. So if you find yourself in this situation with a good unit to bring on at level 10, with a comp that makes sense at level 10, with a very strong comp anyway at level 9, so your HP is going to be fairly protected, then absolutely 100% consider... absolutely 100% consider going for level 10. Do not do the classic Excoundrel mistake, which is like, I don't have things to level 2, which I want to level 2, including my Siren and my Doom. I should roll like crazy until I find them at level 2. Not the best way to play this game. Absolutely not the best way to play this. You really, really, really should. Like, next turn, I could actually just level to level 10 and then put on Soul Reaper, and Bob's your uncle. I've got 3 warriors, Egersis, 6 hunters, everything. Like, that is a really strong comp. I can add a bit more padding to my backline, including like hiding my or blocking with my Soul Reaper and my Werewolf. It would have made me better versus Assassins. It would have given me a better outcome versus Feathered. That would have been the better decision. As you can probably tell, it's not the decision that I made. It definitely should have been the decision that I made, but for some reason I didn't. And I think reflecting on it's always good to go back and have a look at your games and kind of reflect on what went well and what didn't go well. And I can tell you this certainly did not go well in terms of the decision that I think I should have made if I were to look back on this, right? So that's kind of the situation that I'm in. I'm in a situation where I felt like I could have made a better decision for myself at this point. Especially now that I got a level 2 Soul Reaper. Like Excoundrel, just bloody level up right now. Like, just level up right now to level 10 and put a 2-star Soul Reaper on, and you are in an unbelievably good spot. Like, just do it. Like, there's no reason not to do it. You can just literally level up to level 10 and put Soul Reaper on, and like this is just insane. But no, oh wait, no, he's just gonna roll for things. Yes, I have definitely made a slight error here. Leveling up to level 10 at this point would have been a better decision because I had a very strong unit to bring on, and I could have kept my 3 warrior bonus. I actually don't know why I didn't. I don't know why I didn't, genuinely. There are swings and roundabouts to that play, as you'll find out throughout the remainder of this game. There are swings and roundabouts. And I think that the round that caused me to worry was this round here. I think this round is what caused me to worry. I said, I am losing to these guys. I need to hit some level 2s. I need to hit some level 3s. I think that is what caused me to worry. So as you can see here, I also pick up the Dwarf Snipers. I think I get a little bit baited because I start picking up things that, you know, are very handily pushing me towards level 3s. So I'm like, well, do you know what? Like, I kind of want to roll for level 3s. Now, I don't think it's a bad decision. I think a level 3 Dwarf Sniper is going to increase the power of my composition. A level 3 Egersis Ranger is going to massively increase the power of my composition. Obviously, I need a level 2 Siren. I need a level 2 Doom, because I'm not going to function well without them. But I could have rolled to level 10, and then built up an economy, and then rolled down again, and achieved pretty much the same thing, as well as making my composition stronger by miles by adding a 2-star Egersis Ranger. Sorry, Soul Reaper. I'm not going to hark too long on that, but essentially what I want, the decision-making process that happened is that this happened. I basically found a load of pairs, and I was like, let's roll like crazy to get these pairs activated. I got a little bit baited by the pair game, as well as the level 3 game, which is never a good thing, realistically. Because I'm so close to having level 2 Doom, level 2 Siren, level 3 Dwarf Sniper. I don't think many people could blame me about wanting to spend my gold like crazy to get those guys activated to level 3. But again, like I said, it's one of those situations where it could have very easily... we could have done the same thing by going to level 10, and probably made our composition stronger overall by going to level 10. You need to have a look at Chris's composition, by the way. He has got like 3-star everything, except for a shining assassin and a Lord of Sand. At some point, this guy just like high rolls the crap, and I decided to sell off Werewolf. Now, this is probably the mistake. This is probably a big mistake, essentially. I lose the warrior bonus, but again, I could have done this at level 10 and not had to sell the werewolf. I just got impatient and thought that the Egersis bonus was more important. I did do some rolling here, which basically set me up for a lot of 3-stars. I found that the most important 2-stars activated, and then I eventually find the 3-star Dwarf Sniper just as this round goes into effect. So I've actually, you know, I have powered up my composition, but my front line is like noticeably weaker without that armor bonus. And the 3 armor bonus, the warrior bonus is I mean, it's not the most insane thing in the world, but it does give you some solid damage reduction, which is important versus assassins and feathered players. So it's something that you'll find that I will sorely miss over the next few rounds, because it would have just made my front line much tankier. This was a big error that I made that I think it maybe looks better than it is because I managed to find the 3-star Dwarf Sniper, but overall I think it was the worst decision to make. I actually end up swapping my Doom over to the back line and putting my Shining Archer at the front line, because we're facing a lot of assassins. Like, we have a feathered assassin comp and a full assassin comp, being the only 2 compositions left in the game. So I'm quite happy keeping cornered, because corners in general are pretty good versus assassins, especially when you're playing hunters. But just by putting Doom at the back line, it just protects one of my hunters a bit better versus the majority of the people that we're facing. So you can see here, this guy has got everything except for, Wind Ranger, Lord of Sand, and Shining Archer to 3-star. Well, I'm not gonna give you too many spoilers, but it's those aren't the only things that he gets the 3-star. Like, this guy high rolled like crazy this game, playing feathered. He really did. Which is okay, because, you know, 6 hunters should do well versus feathered. I probably should have started picking up the skull hunters when I saw them, but as you can see, and this is something that, again, I tell you guys not to do, but I was totally doing it in this game. I was chasing the 3-star. I was chasing the 3-star Egersis Ranger. It definitely powers up my comp if I find the 3-star Egersis Ranger. I haven't really got her particularly stacked, but it definitely powers up my comp. Look at this guy now, though, by the way. I'm showing you on the screen right now. 3-star Wind Ranger, 3-star Lord of Sand, and he literally says GG after that. Which, to be honest, it pretty much is. Like, he's got 7 out of 8 3-stars. The only 3-star that he doesn't have is the 4-cost Shining Archer. This guy is insanely powerful, and it's showing you that the feathered build, even versus its direct counter, which is 6 hunters, still has a way to beat 6 hunters. This is how strong this composition is. Now, a lot of it comes down to the Shadowcrawler. A lot of it comes down to how lucky you get with crits and Shadowcrawler. But realistically, most of the time, 6 hunters should beat. 6 hunters should, in general, beat feathered. A general rule of thumb is that 6 hunters should beat feathered. No, really, no matter the levels, and especially when you've got a 3-star dwarf sniper backing you up on the back line. So there was obviously a minor issue here for me when I was starting to lose to a feathered player when I was supposed to be the direct counter. Now, I have been winning a couple of rounds, but what you're going to know over the next few rounds, and honestly, I want to tell you that this game is nearly over, but it is not. We've got about 10 minutes left of this game. What you're going to know over the next few rounds is that a lot of it comes down to specifically Phantom Crawler Assassin RNG, as well as dodging RNG. Because while you have percentage chance to pierce evasion, it doesn't mean you absolutely 100% of the time pierce evasion. It just comes down to a bit of RNG these rounds. He has no need to level 9, although he absolutely should, because he's never going to 3-star anything else, and the best upgrade his comp can get is getting another unit on the field. Whereas I am like desperately searching for a 3-star Egersis Ranger. I'm like desperately searching for a 3-star Egersis Ranger. And again, if I had leveled to level 10, I might not have the 3-star Dwarf Sniper, but I would have a Werewolf to buy me more time on the front line. I would have a slightly tankier front line as well with natural armor increase, and that might have put me in a better position to win this game overall. The Orb of Refresh on the Siren is basically saving me as well. Without that Orb of Refresh on the Siren, I would have lost a long time ago. A long time ago. If I did not have the Orb of Refresh on the Siren, I would have lost a long time ago. So that is, again, showing the power of items in this game. If you play the item game correctly and know which items you're searching for, you know, that can basically win you the game. You can see that I eventually found the Tsunami Stalker. Now, you can probably guess that I'm going to get rid of the Skull Hunter at level 2. He's just strictly bad at level 2 at this stage in the game, and bringing on Tsunami Stalker brings me a bit of CC. The problem with Tsunami Stalker at level 1 is he's really squishy. Really squishy. And also a little bit of kind of RNG when it comes down to movement of the to Bewitcher. I could just end up never casting that ultimate anyway. So it's a little bit dicey bringing on the Tsunami Stalker. You can see actually my Skull Hunter survives for a pretty solid amount of time in these fights. But there is a 3-star Wind Ranger to think about. Magic damage does come from the Warpwood Sage as well. So I'm like, well, actually bringing in the Marine bonus probably isn't a bad idea if I'm playing... Probably isn't a bad idea if I'm playing up against this guy, because he actually deals a significant amount of magic damage. So that was the reasoning behind bringing on the Tsunami Stalker here over the Skull Hunter. I almost sold Pirate Captain, by the way. I literally caught myself mid-act of selling Pirate Captain, and I was like, yikes! Don't want to do that. I'm also still desperately searching for a 3-star Egersis Ranger, which somehow... Over all of these rounds, I have yet to find one Egersis Ranger. Now, I will tell you here, if I'd found an Egersis Ranger maybe 2 or 3 rounds ago, probably could have won this game. And, you know, or more, I guess won this game more easily, should I say. Probably could have won this game more easily if I'd found the Egersis Ranger, you know, about 2 or 3 rounds earlier, because I would have then had a 3-star Egersis Ranger when he was still level 8, and it wouldn't have been too much of a big deal. You see right there, that's what I mean about Shadowcrawler RNG. She one-shot my Siren when she was casting her ultimate, which meant that the entire rest of my composition just instantly died. And it comes down to pure RNG, whether you will... Basically, whether you will be able to beat this feathered composition or not, because he's just got so many big 3-stars. He's now hit level 9 as well, and he can bring on pretty much any unit. Now, if I were him, I'd bring on another feathered unit because it benefits from the feathered bonus, or I'd bring on another Shining Assassin, or I'd bring on another Shadowcrawler for the potential crits. I'm actually going to switch over to the other side simply because I think that I get a better chance of direct or focus fire if I'm actually going up against his right-hand side of the board. I don't want to get absorbed in dealing with the... Razor Claw Bear, basically. And I want to sort of buy more time for my Siren to be able to build her ultimate. She can attack immediately, you know, versus the things on the left-hand side of the board. So that's why I moved the position. I just felt like I had a better chance of winning the round when I was on the other side of the board. And it seemed like that was the correct decision. As you can see here, I ended up winning the round. Still no Egersis Ranger, by the way. If I'd found the Egersis Ranger a long time ago, it might have been 10 times easier. But we're still kind of going toe-to-toe. And to be honest, we're on Glacier Clan. I think he is slightly favoured versus Glacier Clan because I don't particularly have a strong level 9 comp. Like, I've just got a lot of 2-stars and then a 3-star Dwarf Sniper. Now, I need to beat at least 3 of the Glacier Clan. I need to beat at least 3 of the Glacier Clan to stay in this game. So it's a little bit of a squeaky bum moment because I kind of rely on the Siren. Now, I'll tell you what, Dwarf Sniper is the absolute MVP of this because whenever someone gets low, Dwarf Sniper just manages to finish them off. As you can see there, he literally popped one of those Glacier Clans off. And you can see right now, he literally... Oh, wait, no, sorry, I needed to beat 2. Okay, right, I needed to beat 2. I was a little bit mistaken. But I ended up beating 2, which keeps me alive by essentially 1 HP. Now, you might ask why I gave Frantic Mask over to Dwarf Sniper. I think because he's got Infused Mask and the amount of damage he's got, it's better for him to have the lifesteal and better for him to have the attack speed over anything else. When I've got 1 HP, I find the Egersis Ranger, which is about 5 rounds too late, and I think I probably could have ended this game if I'd had Egersis Ranger level 3 a little bit before this, but alas, beggars can't be choosers, and we kind of just have to play with what we've got. We're still going up against an incredibly strong Feathered lineup who has 7 3-stars, which I can't quite believe, especially a 3-star Wind Ranger. That's a very hard thing to achieve. Usually you can either 3-star Wind Ranger or 3-star your Shadowcrawler. 3-starring them both is absolutely ridiculous. But you can see now how much effect the Egersis Ranger is having. She's actually the second highest DPS. Now, you can't really compare the DPS of the Dwarf Sniper to the... He's just got all my items. But the Egersis Ranger is putting out a significant amount of DPS, which is actually severely upping my game versus this Feathered build. And you can see he actually beat me, but I'm actually beating him pretty comfortably as well. And that's okay. You know, if I could do that again over rounds on his board, then we're in a really good spot. And I'm going to prove to you that having this Egersis Ranger would have helped me out much earlier in this game if I'd had it on board. A little bit salty that I didn't find the Egersis Ranger earlier, but nevertheless, this is a pretty tense game. Like, this is tense right now. I'm starting to move things around. I'm just trying to put my Tsunami Stalker in a random position, hoping that he's going to get his ultimate off. I'm putting my Soul Reaper right at the back to try and sit there and tank a couple of attacks from the assassins while my hunters do the work. Like, this is all really micro guesswork at this point in time, realistically. You can see my Soul Reaper basically tanks the Phantom Assassin or the Shadowcrawler for a little bit, which allows me to get my Siren ultimate off, which is probably the most important part of my composition, is getting the Siren ultimate off realistically, because the Siren ultimate allows me to deal increased physical damage and deal with this these pesky feathered comps a little bit more effectively. 12k damage on my Dwarf Sniper, by the way, and I actually beat him very convincingly on his board, which leads me to a massive 1-to-1 showdown. This round basically comes down to pure RNG who wins. It's proven that he can beat me and I can beat him depending on how the Shadowcrawler crits go, essentially. And whether I get my Tsunami Stalker ultimate off. So it's coming down purely to RNG. Who beats who based on Shadowcrawler crits, who beats who based on getting the Tsunami Stalker ultimate off, that kind of thing. This is a super tense moment. Because technically, I think if I'd had the Egersis Ranger earlier, we would have had more rounds where we had a better chance of beating him. As you can see, I do get the Tsunami Stalker ultimate off, and I do manage to take out the Shadowcrawler, but not before the rest of my lineup has kind of been punished. And unfortunately, before that I get the second Siren ultimate off, my Siren ends up getting killed, and he beats me on his board as well about the same time. So this was an incredibly close game, like ridiculously close. There wasn't much science to the end game. There was a bit of micro positioning, but that shows you that even the direct counter to Feathered can't actually beat it in the late game sometimes, and it really does come down to a bit of RNG in those rounds. But damn, that was an insane game, guys. That was just ridiculous. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did as well.